Could you imagine serving a 3D printed turkey for Christmas lunch? Or munching on a 3D printed pizza for an afternoon snack? This is not as far-fetched as it sounds. While 3D printers have mainly been in the news for their ability to manufacture inedible goods, they are increasingly being used for culinary endeavors. 3D food printers extrude soft liquid edible matter through nozzles that build up layer by layer in patterns directed by a computer program. They can pump out everything from chocolates, confectionery, biscuits and pancakes, to pasta, pizza and other savory snacks. News reports and industry blogs are very positive about what 3D food printing can offer. They have covered such events as Michelin-starred chefs experimenting with 3D food printers in pop-up restaurants in Europe. The media have also reported on the potential for 3D printing to cater for astronauts, air travelers and people in emergency situations. Nursing homes in Europe are offering 3D printed food with jelly-like texture for residents with chewing and swallowing difficulties. Developers of 3D food printers claim that people will soon have these devices in their kitchens, helping them prepare tasty and healthy foods at home. A 3D food printer was demonstrated at the 2014 Consumer Electronics Show in the US. But that's not all. There's also the radical idea of using insects and laboratory-grown meat in 3D printed food as a sustainable alternative to traditional protein sources. Meat and Livestock Australia also recently announced that it is looking into ways to use 3D printing to produce new meat products to extract the most value from animal carcasses. So it is not far-fetched to imagine serving a Christmas lunch with 3D printed food made from red meat and poultry, or decorative edible items made from fruit or vegetable purees, sugar or chocolate. The SchefJet Candy 3D printer does what it says, it prints candy. Maurizio Pesflick, CC BY, but would you eat it? What do you think about 3D printed food? Would you try it or offer it to family members or guests? Despite industry enthusiasm and investment in research and development, few studies have actually asked these questions of consumers. Next page, full article. Farmers hosting wind turbines may be getting an additional benefit besides the rental payments they receive. The giant blades change the local microclimate in ways that should benefit certain crops, several studies indicate. So far, the researchers have yet to demonstrate that crops grow better near wind farms, but their findings suggest some gain is likely. When wind blows over turbines, it doesn't just turn the blades. Turbulence is produced downwind, mixing air at different altitudes that would otherwise have stayed separated. Professor Eugene Takel of Iowa State University measured the temperature, wind speed, and turbulence upwind and downwind of turbines when farms were operating, and during an 80-minute curtailment. Takel's findings, published in the Journal of Geophysical Research. Atmospheres were complex. He found that when the wind farms were operating, temperatures were cooler in the near wake immediately behind the turbine, but warmer further downwind. Generally speaking, however, their effect was to warm the area at night. In previous work, Takel's team showed that the mixing effects of large blades bring more carbon dioxide to the leaf canopy. He has also observed a cooling effect during the day. The economic consequences depend on the crops planted nearby. Some trees need cold nighttime temperatures to fruit properly, and others become toxic in high CO2 environments. Nevertheless, more common crops such as soybeans and corn, maize, are known to do better under a combination of warmer nights, cooler days, and more carbon dioxide. The additional turbulence should also prevent the formation of frost and spread of fungi. On balance, it seems turbines have a small positive impact on crops, Takel said in a statement. This should be particularly relevant in Takel's home state, since Iowa is not only America's leading source of corn and second for soybeans, but has the most wind power per person of any American state. Nevertheless, testing the step between potentially beneficial conditions and extra growth is not easy. Takel pointed out that differences in soil quality and rainfall will have a larger impact than turbines, making it hard to confirm that the placement of wind farms boosts crop growth. Still, the fact that nighttime chills can be reduced downwind may make farmers more comfortable with turbines being installed on their neighbors' land. Currently, people living near wind farms miss out on rental payments and are subject to scare campaigns about so-called wind turbine syndrome. Despite evidence consistently showing there are no negative effects from living near wind farms, the myth has been recirculated by President-elect Trump and often leads to fierce anti-wind campaigns. Immunotherapy, a pioneering form of chemotherapy, is gaining a lot of traction right now in terms of funding and effectiveness. Rather than using chemical or radiation treatments to destroy tumors, this uses the body's own defense mechanisms to root out the cancerous cells. Various trials, particularly with skin and blood cancers, have shown that various immunotherapy-inducing drugs can extend the lives of patients otherwise doomed to die too soon. Now, as reported by Time, an experiment brain cancer treatment has been hailed as a success. A 50-year-old patient with advanced glioblastoma, an aggressive type of brain cancer, had already been treated with surgery, radiation, and conventional chemotherapy, but to no avail. His cancer returned and metastasized, meaning that it had spread to other parts of his body. A team from the City of Hope Beckman Research Institute and Medical Center decided to use a novel treatment against blood cancers on this unfortunate man as a last-ditch effort to push back his affliction. Writing in the New England Journal of Medicine, the researchers described how they extracted cells from the patient's immune system, specifically T cells, and then gave him what amounts to a targeting system. They tinkered around with these immune cell surfaces, engineering them to utilize proteins that would recognize the glioblastoma cells as a threat. Following additional surgery that removed much of the brain tumor, the team unleashed these modified cells back into patient, where they promptly stopped the remaining tumor segments from growing any further. Over time, cancerous growth was observed yet again, so the team gave the man plenty more doses of the immunotherapy treatment. This time, the modified cells were injected straight into the ventricles, cavities within the brain. This is considered to be a highly risky procedure, as this type of injection can cause deadly inflammation. However, the gamble paid off. Remarkably, not only did the tumor growth stop, but they actually started to shrink. Half a year later, the tumor had almost completely disappeared. Glioblastoma cells. Anna Durinikova Shutterstock. Without this therapy, he would have died a few weeks after his cancer had its resurgence. With it, his cancer did not come back for an additional 8 months. This patient is just one of 9 in the trial, so it will be interesting to see how the others turn out. If they are all deemed to be successful at extending their lives by a considerable margin, then this will represent a new, welcome advancement in the science of immunotherapy. This study will actually come as a personal triumph for the lead researcher, Dr. Behnam Beatty, whose own father passed away from a serious glioblastoma a decade ago. The Tasmanian devil facial tumor, DFT, cells may use a molecular deception, common in human cancers, that could allow the deadly disease to avoid the animal's immune system, according to our new research published this month. Recently it was discovered that DFT cells effectively hide from the immune system by not expressing key immune recognition molecules. Our new discovery that DFT cells contain this molecular shield in response to inflammation represents another important step towards understanding the disease and developing more potent ways of preventing or treating it. So how does this shield work? First, we need to look at some of the recent developments in the treatment of cancers in general. Cancer treatment has undergone a revolution in recent years. Gone are the days when surgery and harsh chemotherapy regimens are the only options. Now cancer immunotherapy can stimulate the immune system to kill cancer cells. In 2013, this was named the breakthrough of the year in one of the top science journals in the world. Since 2013, the immunotherapies that target what we call immune checkpoint molecules have continued to make great progress and have recently been approved as first-line defenses for some cancers. Checkpoint molecules are critical for keeping the immune system in balance. Every time that the accelerator is pressed in the immune system, there is always at least one, and often several, means of stepping on the brakes. These checks and balances are necessary because even though the primary job of the immune system is to protect us from disease, the immune system wields powerful weapons that can inflict collateral damage to critical tissues and organ systems when it is aimed at the wrong target. Programmed death. In recent years, the aptly named checkpoint molecules, programmed death 1, PD1, and programmed death ligand 1, PD1-LIRA, have emerged to be critical regulators of the anti-cancer immune response. The PD1-LIRA molecule is used by many types of cancer as a molecular shield to protect the malignant cells from anti-cancer immune responses. Next page, full article. The achievements of astrophysicists this year were as groundbreaking as they were varied. From reuniting a lander with a mothership on a comet to seeing the most extreme cosmic events with gravitational waves, 2016 was truly out of this world for science. Here are some of the highlights of the year that was. 1. Gravitational waves. The spectacular announcement that ripples in the very fabric of space-time itself had been found, and from surprisingly massive black holes colliding, sent similarly massive ripples through the scientific community. The discovery was made using the Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory, LIGO, and represents a fundamentally new sense with which to see the universe. Animation showing how colliding black holes cause a ripple in space-time that moves outwards into the universe as a gravitational wave. The gravitational waves cause one arm of the LIGO detector to stretch relative to the other by less than 1,000th of the width of a proton in the center of the atom. Relatively speaking, that's like measuring a hair's width change in the distance to the nearest star. This discovery was the end of a century-long quest to prove Einstein's final prediction that these gravitational waves are real. It also allows us to directly see that famously and fundamentally invisible entity, the black hole, as well as definitively proving its existence. The fact that the two black holes collided 1.3 billion years ago and the waves swept through Earth just days after turning the detector on only add to the incredible story of this discovery. The sound of the black holes colliding, where the measured signal from LIGO is converted to audio, the rising chirp sound towards the end, is the two black holes spiraling together ever more quickly. A surprisingly wimpy sound for the most extreme collision ever detected. Next page, full article. The desire to experience altered states of consciousness is something that has united virtually every human culture and civilization since the dawn of man. Yet we aren't the only species to seek out mind-bending substances, and several animals have shown a similar propensity for drugs, whether for medicinal purposes or simply for the thrill of it. In fact, legend has it that the story of Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer and his flying herd mates originates in Siberia, where the highly hallucinogenic fly agaric mushroom grows in abundance. Containing the psychedelic compound psilocybin, the red and white speckled toadstool can be toxic to humans, but is safely metabolized by reindeer. The animals have often been seen acting high after ingesting the shrooms, giving birth to the notion of Santa's flying reindeer. Some Siberian shamans are even said to drink the urine of these intoxicated creatures, as it provides a less toxic source of psilocybin. The idea of Santa's flying reindeer may be rooted in the animal's tendency to get high on magic mushrooms. Tobacco Shutterstock. Many animals also have a taste for alcohol, with boozy bees being a prime example. When the sugar in nectar is fermented by natural yeasts, it becomes intoxicating to the insects that collect it, causing bees to fall into a drunken stupor. However, returning to the hive drunk is a major faux pas, and the workers guarding the entrance to the comb will often refuse entry to anyone trying to enter while under the influence. Another animal that feeds on fermented nectar is the pintail shrew. However, unlike bees, the shrew is able to metabolize this alcohol into ethylglucuronide, which is then incorporated into its fur. Vervet monkeys, meanwhile, developed a taste for booze after being transported to the Caribbean from Africa several centuries ago. The early arrivals regularly got completely trolleyed on fermented sugar cane, and recent studies found that most monkeys now prefer alcoholic solutions to sugary water when given the choice. Next page, full article. Have you ever met a really tall man who has a high-pitched voice? Did it seem odd? We intuitively expect large mammals to have low, booming voices, while small mammals should have high-pitched squeaky voices. The feather-tailed glider is a tiny marsupial weighing only as much as 3 teaspoons of sugar, and as you would expect, it squeaks. Feather-tail gliders produce high-pitched squeaking noises. Taronga Conservation Society, author PROVIDED 217 KB, download. At the other extreme, a lion prowling the African plains, intimidating his competition, has a deep booming roar. Other mammals that are intermediate in size, such as the Tasmanian devil, have a suitably intermediate tone to their calls. Tasmanian devil roar. Author PROVIDED 195 KB, download. The frequency of the calls made by animals tend to correlate with their body mass. This is because the larger the animal's body, the larger their vocal apparatus. It's similar to musical instruments in an orchestra. The larger the instrument, the lower the pitch of the sound. Think about the difference between a tuba and a piccolo. Although some animals cheat, such as the howler monkey and the koala, which have specialized chambers in their larynx to produce a lower tone, for most terrestrial mammals, their size correlates with the tone of their voice. Aquatic mammals break the rules, but it is not always that simple. Our research shows that aquatic mammals do not produce calls at the frequency we would expect based on their size. Rather than having a deep roar like a tiger, dolphins and toothed whales make high-frequency whistles and squeaks. To put this in perspective, the largest terrestrial mammal, the African elephant, weighs almost 4,000 kilograms and produces calls at frequencies up to 8 kHz. In contrast, the Arnu-beaked whale, which is more than twice the size of an elephant, whistles like a bird at frequencies up to 11 kHz. Listen to the whistles of the Arnu-beaked whale. The whistles warble up and down in a haunting tone. Arnu-beaked whale whistle. Author provided. Author PROVIDED 122 KB. Download. Next page, full article.